For over a century, the U.S. has made one thing clear. This hemisphere belongs under its watch. But now, a new player is making bold moves right in Washington's backyard. China isn't just knocking on the door, it's quietly buying the house. Multi-billion-dollar deals, ports under foreign control, and strategic investments that look more like long-term power plays. The Caribbean, once an unquestioned U.S. stronghold, is slipping. The real question is, will Washington fight to reclaim its dominance? Or are we witnessing the biggest shift in global power since the Cold War? The U.S. is sounding the alarm. China's expanding influence in the Caribbean isn't just about trade, it's about strategy. With billion-dollar investments, Beijing is securing a foothold in a region long dominated by American diplomacy and security interests. Washington fears that, left unchecked, this expansion could transform the Caribbean into a Chinese lake, shifting the balance of power in a way unseen since the Cold War. The question now is, will the U.S. counter this growing presence, or is it already too late? One thing is certain, geopolitics never sleeps. If you want to understand how global power truly works and why moves like these shape the future, make sure to subscribe. The real game of influence isn't played in the headlines. It's played in strategies most people never see. For nearly 2 centuries, the Monroe Doctrine served as a warning to foreign powers: stay out of the Americas. It was more than policy. It was a declaration of dominance, shaping U.S. strategy in the Western Hemisphere. Any attempt by outside nations to gain influence was met with swift resistance, ensuring that trade, security, and diplomacy remained under Washington's control. But today, China is challenging this long-standing doctrine, not with warships, but with investment, trade agreements, and strategic partnerships. The rules of the game have changed, and the U.S. must decide how to respond. Over the past decade, China has quietly become one of the most influential economic players in the Caribbean. Through massive trade deals and multi-billion-dollar investments, Beijing has established itself as an indispensable partner for several nations in the region. But this isn't just about economic growth, it's about influence. By financing critical infrastructure and embedding itself in key industries, China is securing long-term leverage that could shift regional alliances. The U.S., once the undisputed leader in Caribbean trade and investment, now finds itself in direct competition with a power that plays the long game. If you're starting to see how global strategy operates beneath the surface, imagine what else is happening that few people ever notice. Subscribe now and don't miss what's coming next. China's footprint in the Caribbean isn't just growing, it's becoming deeply entrenched. From financing major ports in Jamaica to developing energy infrastructure in Suriname and commercial projects in the Dominican Republic, Beijing's investments go far beyond simple trade. These aren't random business deals. They're strategic moves that secure influence over critical supply chains and logistics. While Washington debates its next step, China is building economic bridges that could soon translate into political and military leverage. The question isn't whether these investments matter, it's how long before their full impact is felt. China's growing investments in the Caribbean aren't just economic. They carry long-term strategic consequences. Ports, power grids, and telecommunications networks built with Chinese funding could serve dual purposes, providing Beijing with critical intelligence and logistical advantages. The U.S. has long relied on the region as a secure buffer, but with China embedding itself into key infrastructure, that stability is under threat. A well-placed port today could become a strategic military outpost tomorrow, shifting the balance of power in ways Washington cannot afford to ignore. China's influence in the Caribbean extends beyond economics. It's a direct challenge to Taiwan's diplomatic standing. Several nations, enticed by Beijing's financial incentives, have severed ties with Taipei in favor of stronger relations with China. This isn't just about recognition. It's about geopolitical leverage. The fewer allies Taiwan has, the weaker its global position becomes. While the U.S. has traditionally supported Taiwan, China's strategy of economic persuasion is proving effective. The battle for influence isn't fought with weapons. It's fought with investment, alliances, and political maneuvering. The Panama Canal has been a cornerstone of global trade for over a century, and China understands its significance better than most. With Chinese-operated ports near the canal, concerns are rising that Beijing could use this critical passage for strategic purposes. Controlling infrastructure that dictates global supply chains offers leverage beyond simple trade. It creates a position of power that can be wielded in times of geopolitical tension. The U.S. once ensured the canal remained firmly under its influence, but as China strengthens its foothold, Washington faces a stark reality. The balance of control is shifting. The U.S. is witnessing an unprecedented rise in Chinese migrants entering through its southern border, raising national security concerns. While some see this as a humanitarian issue, others warn that it could be part of a larger geopolitical shift. If China is facilitating migration patterns, intentionally or not, it adds another layer to the influence game. Washington is now forced to confront the fact that Beijing's reach isn't just economic. It extends into the movement of people, potentially reshaping internal policies and security strategies in ways few are prepared for. The U.S. response to China's expansion has been inconsistent, with different administrations taking varied approaches. While some policies aim to counter Beijing's influence through trade restrictions and foreign aid adjustments, others have allowed gaps that China has exploited. Critics argue that reducing U.S. involvement in the region only strengthens China's position, weakening American influence in the process. If Washington fails to establish a clear and decisive strategy, it risks watching its historical dominance in the Caribbean erode in real time, replaced by a new power structure shaped by Beijing. The battle for influence in the Caribbean isn't just about regional politics. It's about the future of global power. If China continues its steady expansion, the Western Hemisphere may no longer be an uncontested U.S. stronghold. This shift has implications far beyond trade. It could redefine military alliances, economic dependencies, and strategic priorities for decades to come. The U.S. is at a crossroads. Does it reinforce its position and push back against Beijing's growing presence? Or does it adapt to a new world where power is no longer concentrated in Washington? If you made it this far, you're already ahead of most people when it comes to understanding global influence. But this is just the beginning. The real game of power happens behind the scenes, and if you want to keep unlocking the strategies shaping the world, subscribe now. The next move in this battle for dominance is coming. Don't be the last to see it. Think about what you just discovered. While most people are distracted by headlines, the real game of power is happening in places they'd never expect. The Caribbean isn't just a tourist destination. It's a battleground for influence, trade, and strategy. The moves being made today will shape global power for decades, and only those who understand these shifts can stay ahead. So what do you think? Is the U.S. still in control, or is China already too entrenched to stop? The truth is, this is just one of countless power struggles shaping the world right now. And if you want to be part of the select few who truly see behind the curtain, subscribe now and turn on notifications. Because knowledge isn't just power, it's control.